Hey, this is a real quick video about recapping 2020-2021 assessment report. On the first page, you're going to find the table of contents. On page 2, you're going to find a recap of the assessment up until 2020-2021. It's going to cover assessment recommendation being removed by the accrediting body, the assessment calendar and how we're moving forward with assessment, that we're going to keep on making videos, and that we're really focusing on assessing for improvement. So then the report is going to get into the individual assessment reports submitted by individual instructors and departments. And so we start that off with the general assessment reports. We're trying to get most people on campus to do assessment together, so to focus on the same institutional outcomes, but sometimes, some quarters, it doesn't work out that way for individual instructors or programs. They have other stuff they need to focus on. And so, for example, in this assessment round on IO2, there were 22 assessment reports that focused on program, course, and institutional outcomes outside of IO2. A little further into the report, you're going to find those assessments which still focused on the broad institutional goal of IO2, but did not necessarily do the same prepackaged plan that most people on campus did. A little further into the report is the prepackaged IO activity assessment reports, and there were 21 people who chose to do that prepackaged activity. So on page 15, you're going to see the Academic Transfer Program Assessment Report. And what this is, in the previous part of the larger assessment report, you would have seen various different smaller assessment reports. Those were submitted by individual faculty regarding their individual classes. But within those, you would also see that some programs, especially on the workforce side, also had assessment reports that they had submitted that were for their entire program. So for instance, the welding program might have assessed 4 classes and they assessed them all on the same institutional outcome. Well, the academic transfer program, the DTA, the transfer degree that many students at the college are going for, also has to have an assessment report that's for that transfer program. And there's some goals that we're trying to accomplish to show that the program as a whole is growing and trying to improve every year. So some of those things, the math quantitative reasoning IO2 package activity, the math and science department really tried to focus on trying to make this activity broad enough for the whole campus to do, and they were very successful in that. One of the themes that could be seen in all of the academic transfer program assessment reports is that there was an inclusion of outside learning tools. Another theme was cross-departmental collaboration. And then lastly, the value of the inclusion of data, which was the IO2 prepackaged assessment plan focus, did seem to be understood by most faculty by the end of doing their assessment on that area. On page 16, you're going to see a reflection and response to faculty assessment reports, and you'll find that generally what we found was that faculty had increased confidence in the process. One of the things that I've been hearing more and more, and some of the other people on the assessment team have been hearing, is the desire to have less focus on assessment in the in-service meetings and other times throughout the year. And this is just because people are getting it. People understand what's going on. While there's still some outliers, people who are a little bit confused with the process, generally people are feeling pretty comfortable. We saw great participation across campus. So, math isn't something that fits into every program on campus. Communication generally falls in almost every, if not every class on campus. There has to be communication. But math is one of those things that's a little bit more specific to certain disciplines. But the way that the assessment prepackaged plan was created allowed lots of faculty to take part, and faculty took advantage of that. And then lastly, we saw that the inclusion of data is a good thing. So people generally felt like they should require students to include more data in their work in the class, and that was going to make the class better and make the learning better and the outcomes of learning better. So the last thing is about the assessment committee plans for 2021-2022, which is this year. One is just sharing this report. Two is training for committee members. There's been some turnover in the assessment committee, and we just want to make sure that people are understanding the process. This is an ongoing struggle. We want to focus on program level assessments. So, if you go back and you look at the calendar of how we're doing assessment, the next few years after this year are going to be focused on letting people meet some of those program level outcomes, not focusing on the institutional outcomes. So institutional outcome 1, 2, and 3. So this year we're going to finish up institutional outcome 3, but then next year we'll be moving on to let people kind of catch up and fill in assessment on classes that they still need to assess and outcomes they need to assess. And then the last thing is we're just trying to continue this process of assessing for improvement, and that's one of the videos that you're watching today, along with this video. It's just this idea that you shouldn't just be trying to show us that you're meeting the outcomes. It should be that you're trying to improve on those outcomes. So you're trying to look at problems and then find solutions, and then telling us how those attempted solutions worked out or didn't work out.